we are live
Awesome.
with Smart, Driven, Drained, the Overachievers Dilemma. Um, Beautiful. So I'll get started this live show, which I'm very, very excited about, with a little bit of an intro about me. And then, of course, we'll go to introduce our guest, and then we'll get started with our beautiful interview that we have lined up for today. So I'm Christina Garidi. I'm the founder of Eudaimonia Coaching UK, and I have founded, of course, my company on a mission to propel people to live authentically. And what do? I coach ambitious professionals, which is very relevant to our topic today, and entrepreneurs to decode their purpose and align their career with it. So I introduced the Eudaimonia success model in 2018 globally as a TEDx speaker, and I'm writing my book on how to access the eudaimonic state of mind. And for those of you who do not know what eudaimonia it is an ancient Greek word, but also a paradigm for well-being, which unfortunately has been pretty much forgotten because of its difficult spelling for about 2 millennia. Those who will know about it would be philosophy graduates in the main, or lecturers, or some amazing people who are very curious about the good life. But other than that, I am here to change that. So here we are. I am the host of Eudaimonia live show, hence the name, and I showcase people who bring a sprinkle of eudaimonia, as I call it, their magic, into our lives. And today I have the honor to present Rodica Zerguine. So Dr. Rodica Zerguine has a dynamic, unconventional journey that she will share with us, hopefully a little bit here and there. But she started actually as a trained dentist before earning an MBA and spending 16 years in the corporate world, primarily in global roles. Having lived in 4 countries, and 4 different languages, I presume, as well, Rodica, developed a deep understanding of diverse cultures, of course, and leadership challenges within those. As an overachiever herself, she has experienced both the rewards and pitfalls of high performance, shaping a unique perspective on leadership. Now, an executive coach and leadership content creator, Rodica focuses on helping overachievers in corporations navigate their careers with clarity and impact. Outside of work, Rodica is a dedicated spouse and parent of 2 sons, balancing ambition with family life. I'm sure we have a lot to learn from you, Rodica. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Christina. A pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And today's focus, of course, of the live show is Rodica's ability to really balance ambition and well-being in her role, not in her own experience, of course, in global corporate roles, but now as an executive coach as well, training leaders who want it all. And you will know as well, right, Rodica, I'm sure you've been told before, you cannot have it all. You want it all, but you cannot have it all. And what we are told is to really choose and make really difficult decisions. And especially parents out there, I'm sure you have to navigate daily sacrifices where you feel torn between, what you dream and, you want to achieve it all, but also personal costs, perhaps family costs and consequences, or career costs. And we don't talk about these costs enough. So Rodica is here today to guide us through the Overachiever's Dilemma, which is a wonderful title that she chose for our show today, and about how smart and driven people end up drained and burned out because there is another way. So say me in the comments if you're joining us already and if you resonate with any of this. Because if you say me, I think you have probably identified you may be an overachiever too. Before we go into this, I just want to mention for those who are joining us today and now that Rodica has a very generous invitation for you. So after we finish chatting away, you will be invited to a very, very generous offer she's got for you. So stay tuned till the end so that you know how to have access to it. And of course, your questions are very welcome at any point. So do type them in the comments wherever you are joining us from: Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube and LinkedIn, of course, because we will, manage to temper them in to our conversation, hopefully. So drip feed them through our talk, and then we will pick them up as we go along. So I'm sorry for the long intro, but welcome, Rodica, again. I know you are connecting from my favorite, at least, country of chocolate. I'm sorry, Belgian people. Tell us where you're connecting from.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much, Christina, for this invitation. And thank you to those who took the time to join us today for a coffee, maybe the afternoon coffee. I'm connected actually from Fribourg, Switzerland, half an hour away from a chocolate manufacturer. So those who want to visit and love chocolate, we have plenty of chocolate here.
Love that. Good. So Fribourg is the place to go and meet this beautiful woman, but also eat chocolate as well. Two
Exactly.
reasons. So who really is an overachiever in today's workplace? How would you be able to kind of recognize one?
Well, I think that the word overachiever has also some negative connotation because it means, going beyond what everyone is doing. And I think that when we look at today's world, you identify them maybe at the beginning in a corporation as the high potentials, those who are seen as, differentiating themselves from the other colleagues, then the high performers, always delivering a little bit more. And then, of course, overachiever being in a way a negative label put on them as those who need to drive 150%, not enough with 100%, but doing more. And I think that it's a challenge for people to actually really know what's an overachiever because you do not know what 100% means. So these people are usually used from early childhood to be, those getting the good grades, getting the awards, and being recompensated for it, right? With, parents being very proud of them, being accepted, and they learn that this is how they can get the attention, this is how they can get the love around them by always being the ones who go an extra step. Now, in today's world, and maybe specifically these 2 last years where AI took such a toll on our lives, right? Everyone talks about AI in every single company. Is the question what we are doing, how many jobs we are going to lose, or how does my job transform? The overachievers have even a bigger risk because they feel the need to compete. And there are certain things that we cannot compete with. So going back to who are these overachievers, if you're not one, usually we do not know that we are one unless someone else points that out to us that, hey, you're doing a bit too much. And usually it doesn't come in a positive way. It comes usually as a negative comment. So you take a hit yourself. But these people, if someone told you, you're an overachiever or you have someone you dearly like next to you who goes that extra mile, they really need to be cautious and they need to be taught how to rest and pause.
Whew. Okay, big topic that. Lovely
It's a
place.
big one. It's a big one.
Lovely place to pause, Rodica. And what I keep from what you said is the easiest way is to describe them as somebody who doesn't know what 100% means. And as you were sharing it, the kind of word came up, over, which is of course the same, compensating. I kind of felt, I have been an overachiever in my, corporate life as well. And yeah, pretty much within 3.5 years, burned out easily. And I definitely, sometimes I still doubt whether I know how to rest. So we'll come back to that one. So how would you say some of the signs that we can start recognizing within ourselves that we are actually an overachiever, in case somebody didn't stop by to say condescendingly, hey, you're an overachiever over there. How would we be able to diagnose that for ourselves and start taking the self-care measures we're going to go into?
Well, I think for one is they do not really disconnect. They do not know how. And I'm
Mhm.
not talking about, swiping and scrolling and being on social media all the time. I'm really talking about work. When someone is an overachiever, it really comes from the DNA. That's what I get to learn in the past few months. It goes way deeper than we think. Um, and it's something it's built in them. You will see that in their work, you will see that in their studies, you will see that in their relationships, you will see that in the how they maybe educate their family. They will not accept that their kids do not do university. They will not, they have certain expectations everywhere. So basically, if you're asking yourself, am I one of these people that do not know when enough is enough? Is just ask yourself, whatever you're doing, are you always pushing to do it a bit better? Not really being satisfied, always looking, yeah, I could have done this better or improved that. If I spent just, one more hour on this presentation, it would have been better. So you end up basically dreaming about your work or your projects, waking up and having those images in your head because you don't disconnect, right? You feel that your brain is always on and on and on without a pause. Now, they also feel guilty if they rest. Like that saying, and God rest my grandma, she used to say that all the time when we were telling her, Grandma, just rest. She was saying, I will rest when I'm dead. So that can also come as not a limiting belief but a setting that you get from childhood, and then you're being brought into such a culture of always doing something. If you're not doing something, you may be lazy, and you do not want the laziness label.
Mhm.
So reason why we cannot rest is because rest we associate it with a negative word, and we must excuse ourselves for being lazy and not looking after ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Whew, okay, so we start digging deeper in terms of where this is coming from, but there's more beneath the surface, right? So,
Yes,
what's
correct.
really driving these people beneath the surface, and what's really happening there? You've already started touching on quite a few issues that we learn and we're conditioned from childhood.
Correct. And what I like to share is that when when I was having my, let's say, career and then education, I never stopped learning. So I define myself as a continuous learner. I'm basically always in school doing something. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the moment that I found some answers, I ask again the question why, and I see that the answers that I found are not satisfactory for me. So
Mhm.
having been labeled as well, an overperformer, right, a high performer, someone who always delivers more. And the moment I stopped delivering that, I was told, well, you're not performing like before, which for me translated into you're not performing enough, even though there was no line where you would say, hey, I'm above the line or below the line or at the line. And I asked why. And then I went into neuroscience to understand how we think, where do our limiting beliefs come from? How can we change them? Because we can rewire everything we believe about. You just need some help. And then I was satisfied with that answer for a period of time until it's like, okay, but why? Where does this really come from? And recently, I started studying human design that really looks into how we are designed from birth, basically. And there are studies that actually have proven that the way human design is being taught and shown, it's connected to our DNA. So as a doctor, that's basically the moment where it's like a click. Okay, I'm on the right path.
Science and yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
empirical.
And human
Mhm.
design actually shows you that for a given person, certain people, like I came to learn also, they have activated a certain center that has the inbuilt drive. So you basically, it's not that people who do not have it are bad, it's just they are designed like different cars in a very different way, and they have different ways of living their lives. Well, those who have this center activated, they have this ongoing drive, ongoing energy that kind of doesn't get wasted unless you're doing something without purpose, and then you're burning out. So this is also the people who do not know how to stop, because it's basically always that fuel that comes into you. And then if you stop, it's that fear. Actually, it's most of the time overachievers go to achieve their objectives, not necessarily because they have a vision, so like positively driven, but because they have a fear of, well, if I don't do that, I may not get the next promotion, I may not get my salary increase, I may even lose my job, I will become irrelevant and invisible, which is a big risk in today's world, right? Where you have layoffs, you have people in their, let's say, 50s are not really relevant for the marketplace anymore and have challenges finding it. Because when you're in your 20s, you don't have the experience, even if you have the drive. So it's a lot of mix there that basically for me, I came to the conclusion that it's layers. It's how you're designed, then you layer on top your education, the culture you come from, then your experiences, your personal experiences, your traumas, and then you go into the work field, and then you get to develop into maybe a high performer that does not know when to stop unless your body tells you now you will stop.
Whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
And let's focus on the individual for now. And of course, we're going to
Mhm.
cover the different aspects you talked about, because the moment you go into work, then you have to interact with, what's happening there as well. So for the overachiever, then, so there is, all these elements you spoke about, from DNA to beliefs to how you're wired culturally, from the house, from, the family, of course, the traumas, da da da, all of that plays a role. Education, experience, age.
Correct.
What happens then if we don't somehow manage to diagnose? And somebody mentioned on the comments that, and I'll show it, everything you do is just a relational foundation for others to build on. And if you're not very good at understanding, okay, well, this is my contribution, and I know, or
Mm.
trust, that the others will do their bit so that I can stop at the right place. So if we don't have that, what's the risk then? What happens if those drivers that are driving us, because an overachiever, I guess, might be able to sense, okay, well, this is not happening, so I need to do it now
Exactly.
to be able to deliver the project at the standard that I envisage, as being great. What happens when these things go unchecked, when those drivers that are driving us from within, go unchecked?
That's an awesome question, because I think this is what is happening in today's world, be it an overachiever or not. We see a lot of burnout, right? And it's especially mental and psychological burnout. In some cases, physical also, but we are talking here mainly about psychological. So it's chronic stress
Mhm.
that basically pollutes your whole life. You cannot say, hey, this is my work, but I'm so happy at home. No, it basically injects your relationship at home, your relationship with your friends, everything that you do your entire life. Burnout, I would say, it's kind of the last stage where if you really go into a serious burnout, there is no other way and other solution than really to stop and to take care of yourself. But I would say something else that happens, and we see it often, and you may see it often with your coaching niche, is the loss of identity. Because many overachievers will tie their achievement to their identity. So it's connected. This is who I am, right? It's not this is what I do and this is how I work. It's this is who I am and how I show up for my colleagues, for my family, for my friends.
Mhm.
So the moment that energy does not come in anymore, or there is the energy, nonetheless there is a loss of vision. Why am I doing that? No purpose. You don't see any purpose in the work. You saw it 5 years ago. Maybe now with all the changes it's not there anymore. So how do you identify these? Well, you can stop and ask yourself some tough questions, when you are into the challenges of those drivers pushing you actually to the limit. Nonetheless, again, studies show that our brain shuts down for ourselves to the tough questions. It's like survival mode. We cannot go there. And this is the moment where if we are in a space where we feel we have no energy, we lost our purpose, we have no idea who we are anymore because our identity tied to high achievements is not there anymore, this is the moment when one should stop and ask for help. Challenge: overachievers don't ask for help.
Oops. So perhaps I love what you said there, Rodica, because the conversation is mainly in our head, and we know that, and it's tied to beliefs, as you mentioned before. And Anna Maria Chitu said, "Oh, hallelujah!" She pointed with a light bulb moment that yes, we can change beliefs. So when you were mentioning that, she put a little light bulb in the comments. I think that conversation, when it gets too much, we shut it down because it activates, our worst fear, which is, what if I am actually useless? What if I am actually relevant? What if actually my survival, which is tied to my work, is not, going to be continued anymore? These are threatening, contemplations on their own, let alone if we don't have a safe place to go to and we're not used to asking for help. And this is the difficulty, right? And we were just answering the question of what happens if those drivers go unchecked. Well, if we keep them unchecked for too long, then we drown. We
Yes.
drown, burn out, as you said, and there may be a physical toll. I've definitely seen a lot of people end up with physical disease.
Yeah,
They have to reclaim their life and who they are. You talked about
exactly.
identity, right?
Yeah.
We have a comment here. Fixed identity is the worst disease. Wow, I didn't even see it when it came through. Thank you, Olivera. I cannot read your second name, I'm afraid. Forgive me for that. What does not serve you, it will kill you. Wow. So learning to let go what does not serve you first is the art of life. What a beautiful, beautiful comment here, and very relevant. So yeah, identity, burnout, disease, asking for help, very important things that we need to learn. And if we let those drivers, those inner beliefs unchecked, we may end up quicker there, which is, of course, growth. Nothing terrible will happen apart from our body saying no more for a while until we rewire. And I've got a question for you, which I think is important, and you really wanted to discuss with us. And this is, how do you lead an overachiever on your team without burning them out? Right? Or dimming their fire and their light. Because, if you do identify as a manager or as a leader that you do have an overachiever, they will drive the whole team probably crazy, you crazy as well, but also, from a caring point of view as a manager, you want them to do well without dimming their light, but also burning them out, kind of letting them on their own. And,
Correct.
they end up quickly to the end.
Correct. And that's an awesome question, because I think in today's world we actually enjoy having overachievers in the team because they will do, the extra mile. So it may become easier for the manager. Will reflect positively, unless the manager is afraid of the overachiever taking his place, and then the relationship may not go that well. Nonetheless, if you do have an overachiever in your team, I think that number one is develop a relationship with that person. What we see today in corporate world, people changing so often jobs, it's difficult to actually develop meaningful relationship with your supervisor and build that trust that when the moment comes to say, hey, you need to take a break, let's rediscuss how, your work looks like, your hours, the hours that you're putting in, the fact that you're working while on vacation, then it will come as a gentle thought and caring rather than, a critic. Because that's the risk, that it's being interpreted as, hey, so you want to put me down, or what do you want from me? So I would say that number one, having a relationship based on trust is key. Number two, try to set boundaries for that person, that in a way that that person sees the advantage. And usually overachievers are driven by a goal. So I remember from many of my trainings where my coaches were saying, enjoy the journey, don't focus on the destination. And for me, it's like, well, I can't enjoy it. I need to know where I'm going and what I'm doing, what I'm having in the end. So what's the journey all about, Journey is for others. So that will not necessarily resonate with them because they are not wired like that. So you need to speak their language, and you need to also discuss the value of resting not being equal to laziness or not doing, the things. The other part is making them aware that what they are doing may be damaging to the team. And if in the team there are people who are not designed like an overachiever, they will try to keep up with an overachiever because they need to deliver at the same level, but they will not be able. So they will burn before because they will not have that drive in it. That's why it's even more important for the manager to spot them in order to keep that team together in a harmonious way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad we spoke about this, because these are the subtleties of caring about the team and
Yes.
being able to distribute the work and treat people differently according
Exactly.
to how they're wired. Whoa, this is intricate. It's not an easy job to be a manager or a leader, for sure.
No, and I would add to that point, Christina, that in today's AI world where we see that AI can take so many different jobs, well, this is not one that AI will be able to take on. So being a good manager and a good leader will still be extremely important.
Irreplaceable, folks. So we're
We are
uh,
fine.
brilliant. Somebody mentioned here, make sure that overachievers remain connected to the progression of the whole, not just to the success of their task.
100% spot on.
Beautiful comment. We cannot see your name, I'm afraid, so I'm really sorry we cannot credit you, but we'll figure it out after the live. Thank you so much for this contribution. So let's flip the coin now. What if your boss is an overachiever?
Ooh.
May I say, and they haven't figured out they are one, because their 100% is up here.
Well, I would say that the likelihood that bosses are overachievers are pretty high.
Mhm.
Now, if you see, for those who know the insights assessment, where you're basically given colors, the red one is the driver. So those who have who are a red profile, there was even a saying, be bright, be brief, be gone. Basically, that's what they expect. Results, give me the data and go do your job.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have time to talk. I don't have time to process your hurdles, your challenges. You go talk to someone else. So
All had a boss like that, put your hands up, and
exactly. And
bosses as well have been like that, so I'm guilty of that too. Yeah, okay.
so I think that in many corporations, as it's competitive. You look at certain maybe industries like finance, healthcare, tech. It's highly competitive. Everything needs to move fast. So you have these people in key positions. Director, VP, president, etc. They will all. Most of them will have this type of profile. Now, if your boss is one and you're not an overachiever, that will be a very difficult pace to maintain.
Mhm.
If that person is unaware of them being an overachiever, then it's extremely difficult to even communicate with them the fact that you have boundaries and that you would like to set boundaries. So one of the first things that I tell you is be very professional in saying, I can do that, but only by then, or only if I do not do this. Now, in many corporations, people will be afraid to say that because they will fear that, hey, it will come out as a complaint for not managing workload. If you're doing that, then I will choose someone else to be promoted next time, or the other one will have a better grade. So it's, I think, making them understand who they are, and the more they hear that from people in the team, so it shouldn't be alone. It shouldn't be a I'm going to fight for myself. It should be a team support where the team says, "Hey, let's talk to the person. Let's say what our challenges are, because if it comes from several, that manager will have a different way of hearing what
Yeah.
it comes at him or her."
Mhm. Yeah, because if the awareness is collective, then it has to be communicated. Otherwise,
Exactly.
it'll be a
Exactly.
one approach, and we're leaving our leader unsupported, which is another thing. Whereas if we forge that conversation, perhaps we will have, a better success rate across the team. I love.
Correct. And I think one other thing to mention, Christina, here is that if you're not that high pace, and I'm not saying overachiever, if you don't have your boss's pace
Mhm.
and you're aware of it, that's a huge win for you.
Yeah,
And the best thing you can do is do not try to match his pace.
yeah.
Try to protect your own boundaries, your own health,
Mhm.
because we need to live a longer life, right? Beyond that job or beyond that boss.
And it takes courage to do the work
Yes.
as well. And I think before coaching, I had no resources. I didn't even know what a belief is to start with. I didn't even know that I had an unresolved relationship. I thought useful or lazy. Opposite.
Dreams.
There was no other way. I was either super useful and therefore overachieving, or I am lazy. There was no in between.
Middle. Exactly. Exactly.
And as a couple of our audience have commented before, it's as much about not knowing 100% is. Let me show it. It is about understanding what you think 100% is. Only 61%, for example, and then he or she goes on to mention 39% is always added by others to make it 100% more complete.
Mm.
And especially if the manager is unable to orchestrate between the team to bring the best out of everyone. That's the whole point of a team. I think we think we're playing a game, which is
Exactly.
one boss, they judge so I have to be holistic. So that's another thing I picked up from school, from Greece, when I was educated, that I have to be holistic. I have to be great at everything. And obviously human nature is that you're not great at everything. In
No.
fact, I was bad at many things, but I couldn't even face the fact that I don't have to be okay, good at everything. I had to be good at everything. So the fear I was living with, the inability to ask for help, and also the inability to communicate my boundaries or my weaknesses to my manager with dignity. That was really tough. Remembering, the very early parts of my career, but even more so the work that it takes for someone who has an overachiever boss to be able to say, "Look, I'm not going to match your pace, but I will be foundational on the things that I'm great at and that I'm amazing at. And then I want your help to coordinate with a team, making their job difficult, right? Pushing back." But no, it's not laziness. It's not underperforming. It's about being able to be sustainable in the long term. Thank you for mentioning this so
And I
beautifully.
will add to that, Christina, because I'm sure that many who are online know Simon Sinek, and his philosophy of the infinite game.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a mindset that we need to have, and that you develop it with experience, right? It's difficult to have that in your 20s because you do not see the breadth of the cost and the toll that that could have on your life. You see it with experience. And if we have that infinite mindset, infinite game mindset, we know that we are in it for the long run. So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Nonetheless, the companies today, what I see also from people I coach is every company acts like it's another sprint, it's another sprint, it's another sprint. So it's every week it's a sprint in a very long marathon, and this is when people burn out.
Of course. And it's not a good business decision, at least, to burn out your people, especially your best people, your overachievers, your overperformance, right? High performance. We've got a few beautiful comments here. Unfortunately, we cannot see your name, but hopefully we will be able to credit you later. When your boss is an overachiever, the only way to have access impact on him or her is to show proof of your and your colleagues' environment success ownership. Ooh, that's a new
I
term.
didn't know that.
Educating us. Your boss needs to see that all of you care for the environment, maybe even more than the boss does, which is always a subtle
Yes.
communication to make, and a difficult one. Thank you very much for this. And then Olivera says, in general, we do not mind overachievers if highly competent, if they rationally know what to expect of each team member. So we come to a point that overachievers cannot overachieve without a team. And that's exactly what Rodica was mentioning, that it's the manager's really gift to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So if they're not aware of that, they will never overachieve. Interesting. So overachieving is not a standalone job. Beautiful, beautiful. That's the whole point of a team, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Um, and Overachiever says, another LinkedIn user, only accept a slowing down request from unconditional loyalty, not trust or caring. Um, interesting. Most leaders don't know how to exhibit unconditional loyalty.
That's a very interesting one to dig a little bit deeper.
No, thank you for offering this. I'm not an overachiever expert here, but no, that's a very interesting value that comes up. So it's not just the trust or the caring. It probably comes from a place, and probably from a trauma, maybe, right? The fact that somebody to open up, perhaps, I don't know if this is validated with research, but I can completely see that the stress, as you mentioned, what's lying under the surface, sometimes comes from cultural references, trauma perhaps, and survival, fear. Especially, I can definitely resonate as an immigrant to the UK. I always felt I didn't speak good enough English, or my accent was funny, or I wasn't as valuable as my British counterparts because I didn't have the language, the skills, the kind of eloquence, perhaps, that I needed to have. So I completely can resonate with parts of, I needed to do so much more to prove my value, especially in a different country that doesn't recognize me as its own. So there was definitely a lot of work on that I needed to personally do to be able to be okay with being myself and being different in a country that I chose as home. So thank you for offering that. That's really beautiful. And then we've got Olivera saying, Olaf Herman is the name of the person. Thank you so much. For some reason, we cannot see his name. So thank you so much,
Thank you, Olaf.
Olaf and Olivera. Awesome. So let's go into, well, how did you develop all this beautiful knowledge about overachievers? What kind of, perhaps, was a moment that changed your life, or maybe an aha moment that kind of allowed you to follow this as a
Well,
niche you're coaching?
I think that as many who go into this role, usually they had an experience that changed them. So for
Mhm.
me, over being an overachiever is my life story, right? And I can definitely relate to what you said as an immigrant moving from Romania to France, and then from France to Germany. it followed me the fact that, hey, being Romanian, I was seen as a second class citizen. So, I was not at the value of a French at the beginning. And I had to prove more. And certain things were true facts, and certain things were potentially just my belief, of how I need to show up and what do I need to do in order not to say that, hey, because she's Romanian, she does not know that. So I always had to over prepare, right? To be a bit better than the one next to me. And then guess what? Over time, not overnight, over time, it becomes a habit.
Mhm.
And once you develop a habit, well, it's like brushing teeth. You kind of do it all the time. Moving from France to Germany without speaking a word of German and with a baby was for us, we have to make that decision. Many people would have stopped, maybe, well, is it wise? For us, there was no other decision to make than move and develop a career. When I was in France, and that's another thing about overachievers, is that they know where they are going and they're ambitious, right, about their goals. So when I was in France, I remember very particularly saying, if I'm to stay in this company, I want that role.
Mhm.
What do I need to do to go there? And
Mhm.
you do not count the sacrifices you need to make or the price you have to pay for it, because we were also young. So you say, hey, I'll work now, I'll invest now, and I'll do it later. Well, moving to Germany, kids, no German speak, no German background, trying to get to learn the language, speak the language, integrate into that culture, uh, pushed us a lot.
Mhm.
And I really loved my job up to a point where I couldn't connect anymore. And I said, well, I'm a dentist, I have an MBA, and I'm working exactly in this field, business in dentistry. What's not to like? Nonetheless, I couldn't feel connected. And that's the moment where I searched for help, because I was getting drained and tired because my energy was not fueling, into a purpose. And I needed to find another purpose. And I could see how, you stop being patient. Well, these people usually have a low level of patience, but even, even lower than that. And so not having patience, not being satisfied with myself, not seeing where I'm going. I got that job. I didn't like it, of course, because it did not correspond to any of the, I would say, human traits that I was looking for in such a role. And so I was looking for a way out, in a way. And I said, okay, if I'm not doing this, what am I doing? And this is where coaching helped me, because, as I was mentioning before, we are not able to ask ourselves the tough questions because of our brain survival instinct. Having someone else ask those questions in a safe space without judgment, but knowing that that person wants you to come, to have a happy ending, it's a completely different exercise. So that was for me a few years ago when I said, okay, I need to change roles, I need to change lives. And this is where coaching really helped me.
Wow. So, yeah, I think, I really want to ask you then. So, coaching is what really cracked the overachiever pattern, right? And
Yes.
now you don't only, of course, apart from the note, guys, you mentioned it earlier, you asked for help. You came to a point where you weren't enjoying what your purpose was, the role you wanted, the way
Yeah.
you wanted it, and you realize, okay, I don't feel this is it anymore. I cannot connect. Therefore, you took the very big step to and the courage to ask for help, and help was coaching in this case. So literally you're describing the safe space, the non-judgmental and the unconditional perhaps loyalty that Olaf mentioned, right, of someone, of a coach who supported you in
Yes.
asking those difficult questions that were really probably going to uncover a lot of trauma, a lot of habits,
Yes.
a lot of chronic overcompensation, may I say, to be able to get the rewards you wanted in a new country, in a new culture, in a new, setting every time, that you had to do because we came from perhaps a different country or whatever it was. We all have our own story of why we have to do it, even if you're not from a different country. Just wanted to ask you now, how do you do that for your clients? And I'm not asking probably the techniques or ins and outs, it's more about the principles of how you help people crack the overachievers pattern, because it's quite a way of being, isn't it? It's, as you mentioned, it's linked to our identity. We can't
Yeah.
see wood from the trees when we're in the pattern, but actually coaching has the ability to crack that. So how do you, create that aha moment for your clients?
I think that there is no magic technique. It's only listening
Mhm.
to what the people are actually saying beyond the words. And I think that we associate that with active listening when we see the body changes, the tone of voice, on how people talk about their challenges. And I think actually, there is something that really helped me, I think, through my whole life without even realizing it. I became very good at visualization.
Mm.
So every objective that I set for myself, I could see myself in that position. I could actually see myself 5 years before I got the job. I could see myself in that job, doing how I would respond, how I would dress, how I would behave, how I would talk, the projects that I would take on. And why that technique is very important, even for those who say, but I cannot visualize. I can't see a red apple in front of my eyes with my eyes closed. Um, it's because it helps us in a way that our brain, our emotional brain, only knows present tense. So even if we give our brain an objective that's 5 years from now, your brain will take it as if it's today. And the more you visualize, the more you actually get into that role. If you look at very famous people who, gave excellent speeches, who won, big projects, they will tell you that it took them years of preparation. So it didn't happen overnight. They were just repeating and getting prepared for that day when they would get the job. So I say that with my clients, seeing themselves in the spot that they truly want to be over and over again will help them make the decision that takes them to those objectives, will help them say no to certain projects that will take them far away from that objective and say yes to those that will help them say. That's kind of how I learned to say yes to sleep and rest, and not seeing it as laziness and not being, active and delivering something results.
Yeah.
So
Re-
beyond, I would say, active listening, understanding exactly their objective, visualize them through that objective, and then using. Reason why I like coaching is because you work with the client's tools and with their own ambition, not yours, not a company's, drive for results. You work with what the client brings to the table.
Mhm. I love that. And the resources are theirs to realize their purpose, right? And may I say
Exactly.
here, we agree on this. Some of the tough decisions I had to make quite early on in my coaching career was that I didn't necessarily want to be in-house a company,
Mm.
because then that kind of direction gets muddled
Yeah.
quite a bit. Brilliant. And cheeky question here. Can
Go
ambition
ahead.
be a force for good? So can we have ambition? Because hey, we're talking to overachievers here. They're driving, they're powerful, tour de forces, out there. They're doing it, to tell them, hey, there will be a cost, which is what we are always told. And cheeky question for you is, can they coexist, and if so, how?
I would say yes, yes, because ambition takes us to the next our next milestone. And that milestone can, I don't know, can be I need to buy a bike, or I need to buy something that's maybe not on my daily list of shopping or my daily my regular objectives. It can coexist, but and I think that for everyone it's important that that ambition is decoupled from our self-worth. So if we do not link our identity, our success with that ambition, then ambition is something that will light that fire, that will push us through, especially the tough moments, because everyone will hit, roadblocks. And that's kind of what will help us get, okay, you wanted to achieve that. So move on, find a way to get over it. And I think that together with ambition is if we are clear about our objectives, that they have to be congruent. And when I say congruent, I mean it shouldn't take it shouldn't cost us our health, our relationships, whatever big cost it has that we are not willing to accept, then we shouldn't have that. Because the moment that we do incur a cost that we are not willing to accept, we will auto sabotage ourselves. How many people want to achieve something, nonetheless they, if looking back, they always say, hey, but I'm actually doing the opposite. Well, maybe because there is no congruence in what they want to achieve, and ambition has nothing to do with it. It's the cost that they have to pay that may be too much, and they are not willing to do it.
Mhm. I love what you said, because what you're linking is ambition in itself doesn't have, it's not a bad thing. And
No.
it's a rhythm, as you said, it's the drive that people have. Some people will achieve more naturally because they want to in the work context, but other people may be achieving more in a way that's not visible to work, right? It may be
Correct.
that raising children, or that they're focusing on their relationship, they might be caring for a parent, whatever it may be. Um,
Exactly.
they might be having a hobby that they want to develop into semi-professional, or some people, in at least with my exposure to the world of work, have multiple streams of income and multiple businesses, or ways in which they want to be. They don't want to be just one thing. They want to be part of the community. They want to be running marathons, and that takes time, right? I love what you said, that ambition in itself is not a bad thing. It's just we have to then be congruent within ourselves. Is this taking me where I have perhaps visualized, where I really want to go?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of piece where my kind of work comes into the alignment, right? The congruence. If there is no alignment, that's where we start leaking all the energy, because we're not doing the things that we need to do or we want to do. That's when our energy and our health and all the other things come as a cost, as an invisible cost, perhaps, to what's visible at work. Maybe the title, the salary, the exposure,
Exactly.
influence, the control, perhaps, of and that's the kind of power through agency, but not the inner power that we need to fuel, which is most of the times coming from rest, from having those moments where we ponder, where we visualize, and we reconnect to why we're here and why we're doing it. Thank you for this, because the same kind of taboo goes with money, right? Money
Yes.
is not a bad thing in itself, or ambition, or whatever else we want in life. It's as long as we don't link it to our self-worth as part of an
It's a
identity.
resource. It's a resource, and we have to treat it like a resource.
It's energy, as you said. I think Anna Maria Chitu says, or they are not aware of all the costs, but their subconscious knows them. Absolutely. We
Correct.
can't cheat ever our subconscious, can we? It catches up with us anyway.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you for your beautiful comment. And coming back to this, then, the kind of ambition, but also taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're not, just exposing ourselves to risks and costs that we haven't signed up for, consciously anyway. Um, I really loved when we connected first and second time before our show today, where you didn't really talk about work-life balance. And I am a fan of not using the word or term balance as well. Um, but you say healthy career and personal growth, and I noticed that a couple of times. So I had to ask the question: why the subtlety? Why the kind of shift in these terms? Um,
Well, I think one, I'm do using work-life balance because that's kind of the word that people connect to, so that they understand. But once I said it, then I change it. So I think that it's difficult to have a balance between work and your private life, your family, your relationships, because you do that would imply that you give an equal amount of time energy to each one, and we know that in different phases of our lives that share is not equal. In our early days, maybe we invest more in our work, then we focus more on family. So it's more about finding how you grow both depending on your priorities. For some people, only the career is a priority. They do not want to have a personal life, and that's perfectly fine. Some other want to have both. Like myself, I wanted both, but I wanted both with a strong focus on my family. So I wanted a career, but I wanted where I would give more energy is my family. Now, the struggle came when I was giving way more time to my career than my family, and that's where the things did not work anymore. Integrating these two, for me, it's always a balancing act, right? It's communication, knowing that at home I'm saying, I need this year to invest more in my career. Therefore, how do we align? What do we need to do together to give me the space for it? Or I have a newborn team in my work. I need to focus way more time for my family. And the moment that we communicate that, it becomes very clear for us as a priority, and for those around us not asking themselves, well, why isn't she showing up, or why isn't he showing up? Now, I use the word growth because personal belief is also that we are always learning, and that when we stop learning, it's not that we stay at the same level, but actually we go backwards. So we learn development in our family life, we learn development in our professional life. So integrating these two may also require from time to time to go to the extremes. We cannot know the middle line unless we know what's extreme right, extreme left, right? And then we come back where we actually feel aligned and rooted, with our goals, our purpose, our values. And that's where life feels good. That's where job is not too much, family is not too much.
I love that. I love that because there is this preconception. You should know your work-life balance. Everything should be clear.
No, it's not.
Earth knows exactly what's going on at any one time, unless we have a few moments to ourselves, or perhaps
Yes.
with help, a coach, where we can actually recoup and say, okay, where am I right now? Right? And say, okay, well, I think I'm on the extreme and I'm
Yeah.
frustrated with either work or there's too much going on at work, at home. And I loved what you shared here. And I think I want to repeat this. It's not about, okay, well, I've got this or I've got that, or this is my priority. I've communicated it. You deal with yourselves. It's a constant, ongoing communication that you mentioned, where we all need to learn the new balance or the new equilibrium, right? And that equilibrium is not a static thing. It's like nine to
No.
five, six to, and then, sometimes our kids may be crying. Sometimes work, deadline, somebody was ill and we needed to pick it up. It doesn't work like that. Uh,
No.
but it's a constant molding of our worlds and constant allowance to be able to come up and say, let's start again. Let's work as a team, as you said, in your home or at work, to say, how can we make this happen now that this has happened? It's nobody's fault, but being able to approach it every time
Yeah,
and be there and present, I think is so important. And thank you for sharing this, because I am with you. I don't think work-life balance, the way it's being presented, is achievable. At least
mm,
I haven't managed to achieve it ever in this way. But being able to know what I want and be able to communicate it with dignity, and also
yes,
with understanding of the other side, and saying, look, I don't have the answers, but can we help each other here? What do we need to do given the situation now?
exactly.
Yielded more results for me in the long run than, and more deep relationships as well, where I was able to be vulnerable and say, look, I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. How
Yes.
can we find a way? And I think that has definitely helped me since, I was younger and I didn't communicate any of that for fear of being irrelevant, or
Exactly.
of being seen as underperforming. In fact, I got more respect out of it when I was able to communicate it with dignity. So just want
And
to
to
share.
see that we are human, that we are not robots that, you know, are delivering on the spot all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And I just want to show a comment from Facebook. Marie Lee, hello. Love this topic, very relevant to me at the moment. Yeah, and we've got Anna Maria also, who stayed throughout. Work is part of life, absolutely, and probably not the other way around, shall we
Yes.
say? Now, thank you so much, Rodica, for guiding us through this beautiful and very relevant topic for a lot of us. And although I may want to say sometimes that I was an overachiever, definitely the overachiever wakes up in me very often, every now and then. So I just want to really invite the audience, if you are still with us, have you encountered a sticky point on your journey to overcoming the overachiever's dilemma? As you have seen, Rodica is a phenomenal coach, and her wisdom that she shared with us today really is invaluable. So, if you have any comments, now is your once in a lifetime, chance to ask her live. Probably not, but I'm sure she will be invited in many other beautiful events like this. But if you do have a burning question, put it through. And I just want to say that if you did love what Rodica shared with us, today, you might want to take advantage of her very generous and thoughtful invitation. So I wanted to let Rodica explain it to you, because if I was you, and if I was, an overachiever back in the corporate with, a little bit of all of this that we shared resonating with me, I would be definitely utilizing that. So please tell
Thank you
us.
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christina. Well, what I want to offer to the people who followed us online today is 5 hours of discovery coaching. So 5 hours, whoever sends me a message, the first 5 people will get 1 hour each of coaching. Even if you have never experienced what coaching is, it's a great opportunity to see how it can help you. If you did, well, then you can come with a challenge you have and we can discuss it through. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, on Insta, on Facebook. Just send me coaching, following today's live. And then I'll let you know if you're among the top, the first 5, not the top, but the first 5 people who send me that message, and I'm looking forward to
Now,
connecting.
I obviously share, as usual, Rodica's LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram profiles for you to connect with her directly. But if you are listening to us right now, make sure you send her the
Just
first
DM me.
so that you get in. I just wanted to say a huge thank you, Rodica, for being here with us today, for sharing your beautiful, experienced point of view as a coach, but also as a global corporate, leader. The insights you gave us today are so intricate. We covered a lot of ground, and I'm really, really grateful that you decided to, accept my invitation to speak with us today. So, unless, we've got any more questions, I think Anna Maria is definitely interested in the coaching. And then, I think it's Olaf says, thank you, Rodica and Christina. Keep achieving.
Thank you very much. Thank
Be nice
you.
inevitable for Rodica, for sure. Thank you ever so much. Make sure you do reach out to Rodica, ask your questions, but also if you are very curious about coaching with her, I would, if I could, I would, but I don't qualify because I was the host. Get in.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much, Christina. Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Bye bye.